You know, there is this universal moment every single January.
Oh, yeah.
We all hit the financial reset button. You get the new planner, you download all the budgeting apps, and you just feel that surge of energy.
hmm
You're finally ready to become that fiscally responsible person you always knew you could be.
And yet what we see, I mean, year after year, is that by what, late winter, early spring,
The wheels come off.
the wheels completely come off. That intense motivation just evaporates, and people find themselves right back where they started,
Stuck.
stuck in this exhausting,
Yeah.
really predictable pattern of financial instability.
Mm.
We call this the broke cycle,
Yeah.
and it's so much more than just bad budgeting.
Okay, let's unpack that because that familiar sting of starting over is it's incredibly frustrating for so many people.
It is.
So our deep dive today is all about understanding this cycle, not as some kind of moral failing, but as this recurring, almost structural pattern of, temporary progress,
Followed by setbacks.
followed inevitably by setbacks and this crushing emotional stress. So our mission here is to move past the superficial advice and really give you the hidden insights, the mechanisms that keep the cycle going so you can actually build something that lasts.
Precisely. We're moving beyond the math, really. We're getting into the behavioral economics and the psychology of instability.
Right.
It is so crucial to understand that if you feel like you're constantly starting over, you aren't just failing. You're participating in a pattern that is, well, it's designed to be exhausting.
So let's start right there with the immediate internal impact. If the cycle is defined by that temporary progress and then these unavoidable setbacks, what is the sheer emotional weight that truly locks people in?
The primary anchor, the thing that really drags people down, is what the sources refer to as the heavy cloak of shame.
Shame.
Yeah, shame. It has a huge effect on financial well-being because money is just so deeply tied to our identity and our self-worth in society today.
So when you struggle, you think it's you. It's a personal failure.
You internalize it completely rather than seeing it as, a structural challenge.
And that internalization, it just breeds secrecy, right? You don't ask for help.
No.
You don't talk to your partner. You just silently carry this massive, massive weight.
Exactly. And that shame, it prevents the transparency, the vulnerability you need to actually find solutions.
Mhm.
It keeps the struggle totally silent. And this silent struggle, it often leads directly to the second major driver,
Which is,
stress spending.
okay, this one is so common. You've been working so hard, denying yourself things, and then boom, the pressure just breaks.
Mm-hmm.
You stress spend. But why does that coping mechanism seem to be about small, frequent splurges? Why not, one big expensive purchase?
It's all about the dopamine hit. It's the immediate return on that emotional investment.
Okay.
I mean, if you are under chronic financial stress, you are just emotionally depleted. You're seeking immediate low-barrier comfort,
So a quick fix.
a quick fix. The sources suggest people are often choosing these small, frequent things, the $7 coffee, the impulse buy at the checkout, the fast food treat, because they offer an instant, accessible sense of control and reward.
It's a survival mechanism that's just gone wrong.
That's a perfect way to put it. It temporarily eases the emotional pain of being broke, but of course it immediately reinforces the broke cycle by creating new pressure.
It's so counterproductive, but it's completely understandable when you frame it as just a search for a quick dopamine fix to deal with all that shame and stress.
It is a deeply, deeply counterproductive coping loop.
Right.
The greater the stress, the more intense the desire for comfort, which leads to spending, which just restarts the stress all over again.
That's the definition of a self-perpetuating cycle.
It really is.
So, okay, if the internal battle is that brutal, we have to look outwards. I mean, we don't exist in a financial vacuum. What did the sources identify as the biggest external drivers pushing people into this?
The sources are very clear on this. Societal pressure is enormous. We're dealing with what they call the pressure to perform.
Right.
And this isn't just about, keeping up with the Joneses anymore. It's about maintaining a very specific financial facade. You need the right car, the right clothes, the right vacation photos to signal competence, to signal stability.
And that pressure is just constantly being reinforced, right? I mean, media, culture, it's a bombardment of messages that validate all this excessive spending.
Absolutely. The cultural and media reinforcement is relentless. It's what validates that aspirational living, often long before the actual resources are there to support it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the most dangerous phrase, the one that undermines every long-term resolution.
Let me guess. You deserve it.
The you deserve it narrative, exactly.
I want to focus on that for a second. is there any way the sources validate that idea? Like maybe sometimes delayed gratification is just too rigid?
That's a great question, but the sources frame "you deserve it" almost exclusively as a commercial tool. It's insidious because it frames delay as a form of suffering, of self-denial. If you delay buying something for your long-term plan, the narrative tells you that you're sacrificing your present happiness. It weaponizes that immediate emotional reward against your future security.
And that mindset makes it almost impossible to save or invest consistently.
Almost impossible.
So we've got these external pressures chipping away at our resolve, but we're also carrying, inherited baggage into this whole fight. How much of this broke cycle battle do we lose before we even start, just based on what we learned or didn't learn growing up?
A significant amount. The sources call it the financial habits we inherit.
Okay.
These learned behaviors around credit, debt, or even simple saving practices, they're passed down, maybe unknowingly, and they're foundational. If you grew up watching your parents rely on revolving credit or live paycheck to paycheck without ever talking about it,
Those habits just become normal.
they become normalized and incredibly difficult to unlearn later in life.
And beyond the habits themselves, there's just this massive gap in knowledge, right? The education we never got. What specific financial concepts are people missing that make them so vulnerable to getting trapped?
Well, it's not just basic budgeting. The critical missing pieces often relate to leveraging debt and understanding compound effects. So people often can't distinguish between good debt, like, say, a manageable mortgage, and bad debt, like high-interest credit cards.
Right.
And crucially, there's often zero understanding of how compound interest works, both for you with savings and against you with debt.
Where it can just destroy you.
It can utterly destroy your stability. If you don't grasp those basic mechanics, you are walking into a very complex system completely unarmed.
So you start out armed with shame, you're battered by cultural pressure, and you're handicapped by these inherited habits and education gaps. You try, you succeed for a month or two, you feel great, and then inevitably disaster strikes. You hit the hope-crushing setback.
This is the critical juncture. This is the moment.
Yeah.
So imagine you've saved, let's say, $800. You're feeling fantastic, right? You're proving the fatalist wrong. Then the car breaks down. It needs new tires.
Or the pet gets sick.
The pet needs an emergency vet visit. Some unforeseen expense that costs $1,000. Not only do you lose the $800, but now you're $200 deeper in the hole than when you started.
And the emotional penalty for that event is so much higher than just the $200.
Oh, absolutely. That moment of collapse, that's what leads to the most dangerous internal dialogue. The acceptance of, this is just how it is.
Learned helplessness.
It's learned helplessness applied to your finances. I always end up back here. I'm just bad with money, so why should I bother trying so hard next month?
That sense of fatalism, that resignation, that's what guarantees the cycle repeats. The mindset itself becomes the trap.
Exactly. You stop looking for solutions because you genuinely believe they don't exist for you.
So what's the pivot?
The challenge here is to recognize that you are not failing the system. You are caught in the system. And the pivot requires addressing that belief structure first. You have to decide that this fatalistic ending is just. It's unacceptable. That brings us to what the sources call the dawn of a different day.
So once we reject that fatalism, how do we actually begin the climb out? Our sources emphasize that the goal isn't some massive overnight overhaul. It's about shifting trajectory. So what is that first necessary practical step?
The first step has to have an incredibly low barrier to success. We often equate effort with success, but when you're building new habits, the sources say to lower the activation energy as much as you can.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Instead of immediately creating some 50-line budget spreadsheet, your first step might be just tracking every single expense for 72 hours. No judgment.
Just writing it down.
Just writing it down. Or setting up an automatic transfer of $5 into a separate savings account. Something tiny.
So the goal of that first action isn't even really to save money, it's to secure a small psychological win.
Precisely. It's all about creating consistency over intensity. Once that first small win is in the bag, we move to building momentum.
Right.
We have to replace the old strategy of these huge, unsustainable January resolutions with small, consistent actions. Every time you consciously manage to stick to that $5 transfer or track an expense, you are reinforcing a new behavioral pathway.
And you get that little dopamine reward that we were talking about before, but this time it's for something positive.
Exactly. And that reward makes the next step, say, increasing the transfer to $10, feel easier, more achievable.
So instead of swinging for a home run and probably striking out, we're just focusing on hitting consistent singles.
That analogy is perfect. Consistency creates compound confidence, which is far more valuable than temporary, intense effort. And finally, because we established that shame thrives in silence.
The ultimate strategy has to involve support.
Yes, the strength in shared goals.
So how does community help break pull that feels so individual and so isolating?
Sharing your goals fundamentally reduces the power of that shame cloak. It normalizes the struggle.
It makes you realize you're not alone in this.
You're not alone. If you find an accountability partner, a supportive group, or even just transparent family members to talk about your objectives with, you create a buffer against those inevitable setbacks. So when that $1,000 emergency happens, you have someone to talk strategy with rather than letting the failure send you right back into that isolating fatalism.
It turns a solo catastrophe into a shared problem-solving session.
That's it.
This has been such a vital shift in perspective. I mean, we started with the frustration of failed resolutions and realized that the broke cycle is not a simple budgeting problem at all.
Not even close.
It's this complex interplay between the heavy cloak of shame, constant cultural pressure, and the learned helplessness we inherit from our past. And just understanding those psychological and systemic drivers, that's the key to reclaiming control.
That is the central actionable takeaway. Your financial security journey won't end by spring if you address the 3 foundational roots: the shame, the cultural pressure, and the inherited habits, instead of just trying to treat the symptom of overspending. Right. So we encourage you to reject that fatalistic mindset today. Consider which of those 3 drivers you need to confront first. Is it speaking openly about money? Is it challenging that you deserve its narrative? Or is it seeking education on something like compound interest? Your new story starts today, but only when you choose to address the why behind the recurring pattern.